That's it. There it is. It finally worked. We're live. Oh my gosh. Tia, good morning.
Good morning, Shannon.
I'm so happy to see you. And more importantly, I'm so excited for everybody else to see you. I have been delighted since the minute that I met you, and I can't get enough of you. So thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me. And it was completely mutual. I love how you are brilliant and incredibly funny. Um, so love it. Love
Thanks.
all of it.
It's a great time, I think, to be in business because character is encouraged. This was not this way when I started off in business. I think people appreciate you bringing your whole self to work now, and so humor is encouraged, which I think is awesome. I love that. Tia, I want to
I
say, go ahead.
Oh no, I made a splash early in my career by kind of blurting something out in a meeting, and it was kind of an unfortunate gaffe. However, no one forgot me, and it definitely got me some bandwidth.
Okay. I love that because being memorable is critical. It's really important. And that brings me to the fact that I did not pull this out for our conversation today. This literally is sitting, I have a little pile of important things on the side of my desk. And one is your business card, which I keep because I'm like, it's so memorable to me. The size, the photo, the name of your company. Tell us, Tia, who you are, what you do, and how you are able to have such creativity in such small things.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I so the idea behind the Orange Peel Collaborative is that there's not one way to peel an orange, right? Doesn't mean that my way of peeling an orange is right and your way is wrong. Let's just get to business. And I feel like we can get so caught up in the nuances of AI and how we're rolling it out, what our policies are going to be, that sometimes there's more roadblocks than there needs to be. So I like to break those down. And in doing so, my firm creates straightforward, plain language use frameworks and policies, customized trainings, and super fun checklists for industry, especially in agriculture and manufacturing. And my business card is again, there's the orange, but also I wanted to. I'm covered in tattoos, and back to your comment about being personality. I'm the edgy girl. I'm not the polished PhD, or I wish I was, but I'm a Navy veteran covered in tats, and I love working with industry people. So.
I love that, Tia. And you said something to me as we were just prepping before we got on this morning that I want to dig into. And that is, I don't think there's a better place to have a startup right now than Pittsburgh, particularly in the AI space. So tell me what you're seeing that would make you say such an amazing thing.
So I'm not from here. I'm from Seattle, and I was enchanted by Pittsburgh because it reminds me so much of Seattle 20 years ago. So I'm reliving my 20s, and I'm not mad about it. But what I love is Pittsburgh loves Pittsburgh. People are so supportive of startups here, and at the same time where there's that really personal connection level and opportunity for businesses my size, we're also the robotics center of the world, which is so incredible. And having the cloud of research universities like CMU and Pitt, we can really be proud of that. But at the same time, Pittsburgh has a manufacturing history. We all know the steel industry and iron and glass factories. And where I come from, we were industry before the tech. And so I really respect the blue collar as well as the tech hub. And how can we celebrate both, bring both together, really integrate AI in manufacturing as well as in the office space, and do so respecting everyone.
Love that so much. And I think one of the things that's super cool about Pittsburgh is we're right here in the heart of Appalachia. People are very sturdy and very eager. And anyone who did stay around after the steel mills rolled out of town probably were people who had something to prove, who had a family to feed, who were like, what can I do so that I can, keep everybody afloat? And I think that that idea of innovation where friction breeds innovation, and it's sort of a necessary way to survive. You see that spirit reflected here in Pittsburgh, in the universities, in the people, in our accelerators and incubators. And how cool for you to be at the forefront of it. Tia, tell us exactly what it is that you're doing, because I think from what I know about what you've described to me, it is so critical.
Yeah, so I, you know, I broke into the AI space about 7 years ago, and I have met the most brilliant people that I really believe have some of the solutions that will change our planet for the better. But what I found was these brilliant individuals couldn't always communicate their concept to end of market to end user. And my whole career has been built on breaking complex topics like government benefits for veterans, for instance, into digestible pieces. And so I wanted to see how could I do that, but in a way that moves industry forward and brings differing industries together. And so that's what we really do. And what my goal is to be the go-to partners for AI and robotics firms of Pittsburgh that really bridges the tech maker with the end user. So what we do is we get in and have those conversations of, hey, what do you really need? What are some of your concerns? Is there pushback from your board? Is there some upskilling that employees need before you implement this robotics solution? How can we have these conversations, I like to call it the touchy-feely side of AI integration, before we do the implementation? And that's where I just really lean in and where my team excels.
This is incredible because thinking about how to roll something out before you roll it out, obviously, is near and dear to my heart, because
Mhm.
I got so invested in this equation that I was elbows deep in research to where somebody that I respect, a mentor of mine, was like, just go do a PhD, like you're already halfway there. And the thing that I found, Tia, is probably the same thing you're finding. Although I'm really focused on Salesforce user adoption, I think thinking about any sort of user adoption comes back to this moment that you're describing, which is upskilling employees, making them aware, not forgetting that prepping is a critical component to implementation and rollout. And I'm wondering, what are the types of things that you're seeing in particularly AI initiatives being rolled out that is not working when companies don't consider the framework that you're bringing?
Yeah. So one of the things that I'll give you two brief scenarios. One, I had a very frank conversation with the CEO of a significantly sized firm. And he said, Tia, I am not seeing the ROI that I was promised. I installed like the complete enterprise system, all the bells and whistles. I was convinced that AI was going to solve my problems. I preemptively laid off some people. And now I don't have the brain trust that used to be here, and I am paying for things that my team isn't using, and I don't know what to do. And I was really grateful that we had this frank conversation, but also I really felt that it could have been prevented. And for the cost of like my consulting services, it could have saved this man, hundreds of thousands of dollars or more. So that's why I really think conversations are important. On the flip side, I was at a manufacturing summit recently, and I was listening to this VP talk about how she has people that are approaching retirement who are so specialized in operating some machinery, and how they're making strategic decisions to bring in robotics. And then some of the younger workforce, how they learn more with, just off their smartphone, and don't necessarily learn in the same way their employees have in the past, and how they are taking the time to figure out what is the formula that is going to make them competitive in the marketplace still, while also maximizing all of these resources that they have. And quite frankly, I think that this is like the trifecta of what is going to make our manufacturing and other industry so successful in Pennsylvania, is by capitalizing on the brain trust and the expertise that exists, smart use of robotics, and then working with young people as we incorporate tech in learning and onboarding.
Boom, boom. That is the sound clip. I am so pleased that even without Jason, I was able to remember to shoot you into solo layouts, because I know when he gets his hands on this, he's going to chop that one up. Tia, that was underscore italicize. I am so behind what you just said, and sorry, Jason, that you're missing out this morning. My goodness gracious. That was one of those things where somebody says it and you're like, that's it. That's exactly it. And I think you're right. This, kind of stretches beyond Pittsburgh and goes to all of Pennsylvania, to think about, as a state, how do we remain competitive and how do we get even more competitive? Because we've got such incredible universities, think tanks, we have to capitalize on that sort of thing. But since we're talking about Pittsburgh and Pennsylvania, Tia, I feel like I have to ask you, it's a little controversial probably, but it's very of the now. Today on Tuesday morning, I cannot go without asking you what your take is on what's happening at Duolingo right now, because I saw, and I follow them as a marketing professor at Point Park. I'm always like, look at Duolingo. They have a very, their voice is so distinct. And they came out a week ago and said, we're going to have to let go of a lot of our people because AI is going to do it. And then 7 hours ago, they backtracked and said, oh, just kidding. We don't see AI replacing human employees. So I'd love to get your take on this.
This is probably not going to be the answer that you were looking for at all, but I was an Arabic linguist in the Navy. And
Wow.
I got injured, so my career was cut short early, but I have an Arabic tattoo on my arm. I have a deep tie to my instructors, who were just so lovely to me. And learning Arabic back in the day with cassette tapes and 10 hours of class time was brutal. Just gonna throw it out there. It was a lot. However, I believe in old-fashioned language training and the importance of the human aspect of it. And I learned by talking, by writing. It was very interactive. And although Duolingo, it's an app, and yes, it's not quote unquote hands-on. However, people are still a huge part of Duolingo's story, just like my instructors from Egypt, from Jordan, from Iraq, from Lebanon are a big part of what made Arabic such an incredible journey for me. I think that Duolingo needs to hold on to that. And there's just I work in AI integration. I'm not here to say AI is the devil, but I really think that AI is here to enhance human creativity, and human is the key part. And I'm glad that Duolingo has made that decision.
Perfect. Amazing. I love that. That was another great soundbite in there. I think we think a lot about what is AI and what is AI's role. And I see a lot on the education side discussing how do we integrate AI in the classroom, because our students certainly are going to need it when they get out into the workforce, but remove AI as a crutch, making sure everybody that is using AI is able to adjudicate what AI has said, to say, is that true? Can I validate that? is this helping me? And I'm talking specifically, Tia, in this case about generative AI, right? That's what we're seeing in the classroom. Um, but when you think about AI and human integration and how AI and humans play together, I'm sure that's where your consulting comes in. So tell us a little bit about how working with you starts. So what's the ideal situation? Not when you get called in on a rescue like the one you just described, but what's the ideal situation to set a company up for success?
So I like to say that we at the Orange Pill Collaborative, we listen, we ask the right questions, and we find what works for you. So how our process starts is a 30-minute free consultation and us me just listening and learning where you're at, what do and you don't need to use the right words. That's the thing, is I don't always use the pretty words. Sometimes I throw out the wrong word in the wrong language. That's what happens when you speak multiple languages. They're a fruit salad in my head. So I don't expect anyone to be perfect. I want to just hear from you. What is it that, not only what you need for your business or what you're hearing from your employees that you need, but also what's your vision? Like my background is in strategic ops. And so I like to look at the big picture and then break it down into the little pieces. So when I'm listening to people, I want to hear, what do you think AI could do for you? Or if AI was not in the picture, what are your strategic goals? Okay, so now I'm getting a lay of the land here. Now, on the day to day, where are some inefficiencies that you're seeing? Or you guys have already been experimenting with AI. That's awesome. Where are some areas that you think upskilling could help? And also, how do your employees learn? Do they like having someone come in person? Are they cool with training on Zoom? Do they maybe learn more with humor? Or, let me learn about your company culture. And while we're on the topic, let's talk about values. And I think that sometimes the word ethical AI has been so overused. Don't even get me started. However, I think talking about values, everyone's company has values, whether you agree with them or not. And so starting with that discovery call, learning what people's strategic priorities and value system is, I can create a plan that is customized for you today and has stepping stones where we can set you up for the future.
Yeah, I think that is incredible and something all companies should be thinking about because starting to use AI isn't the same as starting to use a CRM system like Salesforce, which is, yes, we're shifting away from the way that people were doing things. The process may be adjusted to meet the technology. But I think when we're talking about AI, there's this level of fear. So there's heightened emotions that are coming in. So, working with you from the beginning is something that makes good sense. I know you told me the last time that we talked that there was another way that people could work with you that I was like, oh my gosh, of course that makes really good sense. The way that you just described is like, yes, that's what I would expect because that's what we do all the time, thinking about how do people consider that human centered design element before they roll out a CRM system. But you told me something that I was like, whoa, now that would really set a company apart. And that is if they are themselves an AI product, you can get in and work with them before they are pitching to prospects or customers so that you can be a part of their what it is that they're rolling out to their prospects or customers so that you're wrapping in that concept of human-centered design. So tell us more about that because honestly, Tia, I was like, that could be game changing and help one of these startups really stand out.
Thank you. Thank you, Shannon. So I really see myself and my incredible team as the ultimate partner for Pittsburgh's AI and robotics firms. So you don't need to necessarily have services like mine in-house. You can wrap us in to the proposal you're putting together for your client. So we are a line item in that contract. And what we are going to do is come alongside you. You do what you do best, and that is creating these incredible advanced tech solutions. And what I'm going to do is ask the questions, create the checklist, prepare your client, your end user for your product. And this might necessitate a larger order. But what it is, or it might not. But what it is going to do is going to create some transparency, which I think is sometimes lacking, especially um, especially in the AI space, where we can assume maybe that people understand things that they don't. Like you brought up CRMs. I have conversations with some of my friends where they ask me, "Hey Tia, is CRM AI?" And I have to stop and I say, well, that's a great question. It's not is it this, but a CRM can have AI. Let's talk about that, you know? And I think sometimes our LinkedIn can be super noisy when we're in the AI space, where it looks like everybody has already adopted AI and knows all these things, but that's actually not the case. We still have a long way to go to really bring everyone to a baseline knowledge there. And so that's why having me built in is really key and vital. And ideally, by adding my services to the equation, you're going to have a happier customer, which equals a returning customer.
Love that so much. I just saw an article yesterday that passed through, on my Medium subscription that said 96% of AI startups won't make it past 1 year. And I feel like that's a big, audacious number. You know, I don't know what it's rooted in, right? This wasn't like like a very serious quantitative study. But when I looked at it, I thought, yeah, I mean, I bet it is the vast majority. Some will get gobbled up, some will just sort of, fade away. And some probably had amazing ideas, but didn't understand the commercialization of it. And so I think bringing you in is such a key way to say, look, we have this subject matter expert who's been doing this type of thing, who brings frameworks, who brings blueprints that will help you to see that ROI that you want. So you don't have to pay her 5 times as much after it didn't work, to bring it into your company. And I think that's just incredible. Tia, before we wrap up today, tell us a little bit about your team, because I know that you don't do this alone. Tell us a little bit about, the other folks that you work with, who I think sound just as fascinating as you do.
Thank you. My team is incredible. I have two partners, Dr. Randon Taylor, who is an expert in AI risk and was most recently a professor in Amsterdam. And then I have Lindsay Assis, who her specialty area is AI and sustainability. I think any use policy has to talk about the elephant in the room, and we need to keep the environment as part of the equation. So those are my two business partners. I also have my brilliant webmaster and design lead, and that's Maya, and she is actually based in Mexico. I have designed my company to grow throughout US, Canada, and Mexico, and eventually, actually this year, I'll be launching the Orange Peel in Mexico, and we will be eventually moving into Central and South America.
Well, that is a big announcement. You heard it here first. Oh my gosh. Congratulations. That's amazing, Tia. I did put your website here so people can find you at theopcollab.com. Where else can they find you?
You can find us on LinkedIn. You can find us on Instagram. And we will be having a YouTube channel very soon.
Yay!
So please engage with us, and we are very friendly. We obviously love to talk. So yeah, reach out.
Congratulations, Tia. Thank you so much for joining me today. This was as delightful as I expected it would be, and it went way faster than I wanted it to. So we've got to get you back on the show soon.
Thank you so much, Shannon. I really appreciate you.